The ADR process in Power Rangers was fun.
I really loved the ADR.
The ADR process was nothing but fun.
It was a big part of every episode. We had quite a few hours in ADR every episode.
ADR saved most of the episodes.
I really enjoy the ADR experience, generally.
ADR was a blast. This job never felt like work. The hours were long and it was very intense, but it never felt like a job. It always felt like awesome.
ADR is additional dialogue recording where you're standing in a voice booth.
Originally, it was a process of replacing dialogue that there was noises out in the field or something that needed to be replaced for technical reasons.
With a lot of TV or whatever, you're doing an outside location, you have to come in and do ADR because maybe it was a little too windy or a horn blew in the background or whatever, and you're going to have to do the dubbing in order to compensate for the fact that on the day they weren't able to get the audio they're looking for.
With Power Rangers, it is a world unto itself.
Man, take a look at that ugly thing.
Aha! Power Rangers! I knew you'd take the bait!
Yeah! You and your playmates have met your match!
That really just happened, right?
I'm pretty sure it did.
The show is shot in Japan first. So a lot of the footage that they have, it's edited with our stuff that we shoot here. So for example, when you have guys inside the costumes or monsters and stuff like that, you go into a booth and then you basically recreate the voices that you're hearing.
It's this quite surreal experience of standing in a studio booth and shouting and sort of making noises into a microphone with no physical activity to accompany yourself.
We're just going, ha, yeah, morphing, or, yellow Power Ranger kind of thing. So you would get hoarse, like there would be no voice left at the end of it.
Sometimes if someone walked into that booth, you'd think something completely different was going on.
You look like a bit of a madman, but I think we definitely learned a new skill set there.
Scott, who was the director of the ADR department, he made it incredibly easy.
I directed most of the stuff. David directed a lot when I was doing other shows. And I brought in a bunch of other people to direct when we were doing the 4 at a time because we had just around-the-clock studio being used.
Working with Scott Page-Pachter was incredible.
He taught us to act, I think. Since we were all first-time actors, we had no idea what we were doing.
Scott Page-Pachter is one of the most horrendous people I've ever had to work with. Scott is still a pal.
He was a monster. It was so awful.
Yes, my queen.
Having someone like Scott there was great because for us, we really didn't have any experience with ADR, especially on the level that we had to do for Power Rangers until we got on the show.
He knew how to walk us through it. When we did something wrong, it wasn't, hey, what is? It was just gentle. He was the gentle giant of the ADR, I should say.
He was able to, do a really effective job of holding your hand and coaching you through things in order to, not just technically get the delivery that you needed because, you got to fit in whatever lines in between, this point and this point in the frames, the shot itself, but also getting, a performance. So he was really wearing multiple hats because he would write some of the ADR dialogue, a lot of the ADR dialogue, and then would have to, technically make sure it was captured and then also make sure the direction was proper.
He would play a line and kind of say, well, how about if you said it more like this? And we would try it. He'd do the playback so we could hear what had just changed. Scott was a god. He taught us how to act, I think.
Whoa! It worked!
This feels incredible!
This is just what we need. Let's get to work.
Kia! Kia!
Yeah! Yes! Kia! Kia!
I think we kind of invented the fact that the ADR and the post-production was part of the production. So we actually moved the studio to the set, the ADR studio. It was on the set, we were upstairs. And then when the actors weren't in a scene, we'd throw them up to us.
And that took some real getting used to really kind of, build how well you could handle that portion of it.
You're surrounded by foam walls and you have a TV screen and a microphone. You put the headphones in and the sound engineers cue you up to the line that you have to say, and then basically you have to lip sync yourself. So you've got to get everything in time and say it with the right inflection and all that kind of stuff. It really is its own art form.
It was a challenge, you know, and it was fun. You know, let's see if we can do it on the first take. Okay, well, let's do one more. I was a little bit off there and mixing up the lines and having to go back.
And equally important, when the Power Rangers were in the suits fighting, of course, they still gave their dialogue, and we had to put our voices into what we were saying when we were actually in the suits.
So you're just standing there in the booth. There's the fight, which you're not involved with because it's what the Japanese stunties have done, their film previously. And then so you're just kind of matching, and if someone gets hurt or something like that, you go, Like normally in a fight, say you and I were having a little scuffle now, I'd give you about 8% of like, far out, that hurt, or something like this. But in these, we're going 800% even, because it's just we've got to show all the emotion here, which like if I was just showing you, I'd be like, you could kind of gauge that I was in a bit of pain or whatever, but you can't see it because the mask's on. So you just have to go for gold, and there's all these other sounds that they put into it as well.
I could only end up doing an hour at a time because my voice would just get so gruff by the end of it, because there's getting up movement, falling down movement. Every single little movement has a sound that needs to go with it, and it really is a completely different form of acting that you have to kind of work your way into, because you feel like an absolute idiot when you first do it.
And it was also a time, like, as an artist or an actor, that you could just go for it. I mean, it's high energy and it's super fun, and it was cool. I liked doing that.
The best thing about the ADR process, I think, is that we were able to see what we were doing as we were going. You know, we shoot these long days and you're not really sure how it's all turning out. ADR is a really great chance to see some of the footage come to life and some of the characters interacting with each other, and it really helps the momentum for shooting. It gives you enough energy and enthusiasm to get through more kind of long days.
It was a great experience because, again, doing 40 episodes in a season, it's just volume, and you get so much practice where it just becomes second nature and you become consistent.
I learned how to beep. I learned how to do that, you know, at a young age, and so which is also helps me further in my career. People aren't going to know what that means, but it beeps 3 times and then you have to say the line.
A lot of films and television will require ADR, so if you can get in and get out because you've had this training on Rangers, then yeah, you're pretty lucky and you're ahead of the game.
I believe what we got in 1 year, a typical actor, if they're working consistently, back-to-back series, you know, it's the same experience that people would get in 3 years, maybe 4, because they just don't have that much on-camera experience. They're not doing that many episodes, and even nowadays they're doing 9 to 13 episodes, not a full 22 like it used to be. So we were very lucky. I mean, it was so great to be able to do that.
Go! Well, if it isn't the Power Rangers.
I always had to go in to do the evil laugh, but particularly for all the other villains who were in the mask. They were really great with all the physical animation, but they would actually hire somebody else with a very unique voice, a very animated voice, to come in and match the physical movements of the villains.
Hey, how about a big bang?
Oh, a lot of the guys who did the monster voices were, I looked forward to them coming in. They're hysterical. Of course, 2 of them are gone now. Bob Manahan, who did Zordon in the beginning, was a good friend, and he was, we just laughed our butts off. And Bob Pappenbrook was a great, funny person. Michael Sorich is a great friend. He's fantastic. Barbara was great. We had a good time.
We were all such professionals and knew our work so well and had worked on so many other projects together that it really was like a John Cassavetes ensemble.
They're right there for us, Goldar.
Yes, my queen.
This is perfect. We'll get them, finally. What's going on?
This could only mean one thing. Lord said the true emperor has returned.
Oh, my gosh.
They knew what they had to do. You know, I was just trying to help to tell them where the story was going and how it had to lead to whatever it had to lead to. There was only a few that I really had to work a little harder with, but usually people had a clue what they wanted.
Scott was pretty good, actually, with not getting carried away with all of that, because it was pretty obvious. The scripts weren't complicated. You could tell right off the bat, except when I played Magna Defender.
You have no idea what you're talking about. Scorpius took my only son from me. I will not stop until I destroy him.
Magna was a much more internal, really fun character to play, but Goldar was a little more on your sleeve, and it wasn't a lot of work to figure out what was going on.
You'll pay for that, impudent ranger. You've not seen the last of me this day.
I like to know what is wanted, and then I want to let it percolate in my head and deliver it how I think I'm applying what I've been given. And then I want to be told, no, that's too, well, I've been told a lot that pull it back. You know, I have a tendency to go, you know, to the wall with it.
They're right there for us, Goldar.
Yes, my queen.
This is perfect.
But generally, I want the chance to let it, you know, marinate inside, so that I'm coming from an organic place naturally, and not trying to please and fix. It's best when it's organic, but you do need some tweaking along the way.
Here comes the queen. Ain't that a scream? No one can ever be quite as mean.
They'd bring us in one actor at a time and just go down the line and record the voice, the lines, line after line after line after line. It's pretty cut and dry. So the actor has to use his imagination.
I would go in to record, and sometimes I'd have, like, Rita's lines were already recorded, so naturally I'm going to hear her and then react to her. But more times than not, I'm going dry. I'm looking at the script, I see what she said or what Babu said, and what I say, and then what happens.
Sometimes, like say I had a scene with Barbara as Queen Rita, and if she was recorded first, I'd have the benefit of hearing her in the headphones so I could play off of her. If I would record first, well, it would be vice versa.
I should think this line and the next person's going to be recording this line and this, and they all have to go seamlessly together. So you're not thinking of just that one performance, you have to think of how they're all going to work. And that was my style, still is, I guess.
Oh, Lord said, give me another chance. I will not fail again.
Quiet! Those Power Rangers are nothing but mere infants. You were defeated by children. You dare call yourself an Empress of Evil? You are not fit to destroy a cockroach. I have always said that, my lord.
You gold-bellied rat.
We'd had Wallace sessions, you know, like sometimes I would be called in to do Rita and the Putties, so I would hang out and go later on.
That was always fun, to be able to go in and do all the Walla Wallas and all the sound effects that were going on. That was fun. And if you were in good with Scott, you got to come in and do other ADR for other things that weren't just your lines. So that was a bonus.
As much as we were all passing ships in the night, we had an awful lot of fun up there.
We were kind of a sanctuary a real lot of the time. The actors would come to us to get away from the nonsense on the set if there was, or they just needed a break. So we were the place they'd come hang out and be safe and not get yelled at by a A2 or whatever. Yeah, so a lot of times the guys would always come looking to us. Is Jason Frank up there? Yeah, he's here. Set him down. So we did.
Scott kept things light. A lot of screwing around in there. I think that was kind of like going to your favorite uncle's house where everyone screwed around and it wasn't as serious. So it was a good time.
I think it helped that he had a son that was kind of growing up with the series at the same time. And so, you know, it was one of those things where outside of him enjoying, you know, the work itself and the people he got to work with, I think there was probably a little bit of a tie-in with his kid. You know, he's looking at it going, wow, this is really cool that, you know, my son's geeking out on the same thing that I go to work and do every single day.
It felt like a ridiculous party every time we went in. We were there to do work, but we would, well, I would say laugh 75% of the time. And it's hard not to laugh when the majority of what you're doing is literally,
We were always messing around. You know, you stare at the screen and you have to say the lines that are on the script, but sometimes we would say things that just were not written and probably totally inappropriate, but it was fun.
I used to do a silly thing where I was sitting at a table, and they're in the other room behind the glass, like this. And if they weren't paying attention, I'd take my shirt off and be sitting there behind the desk, and all they'd see is me. It looked like I'm naked from out on the other side of the booth. And so I have some pictures of us doing nude dubbing at different times. It was just silly. And it was usually a way to get, it's very intense on the set for them. It's not as intense with us, but if they're hyper-focusing and getting lost in their direction, I did something silly to get their mind off it.
When you're burning film on set, you don't mess around. It's every single second is money, and in ADR the guys were so great. Very relaxed. We'd be joking around and making fun of ourselves, watching it back, and okay, we got to get back to work, and then we'd go back and knock out whatever we had to do.
He was really fun to work with. He made it fun. So and he was a good director. He got the product out.